Hi YouTube, this is Darkon633, and today I'm bringing a review of the Transformers Generations Combiner Wars Defensor. Now that the full team of the Protectobots are here, we could finally form the full Defensor team, which looks pretty awesome. Now, as you can see already mentioned in the other reviews, a lot of these are retools minus Hotspot, Groove, and Rook. Since Rook is a brand new character, Groove is turned into a Legends class figure, and Hotspot obviously is its own Voyager mold. Now, while the team is comprised of many retools and repaints, I still think Hazard did a nice job designing the full team of Protectobots, and they work nicely to form the full team. Now that we have a look here of the role modes, we'll take a quick look of all of them in their vehicle modes next. And as you can see here, we finally have all the Protectobots in their vehicle modes. We obviously have a brand new character, which is Rook, that transforms into some kind of rescue SWAT vehicle. And now Groove is represented at a much more appropriate scale for his vehicle mode. And I have to admit that this is a very impressive range of vehicles to represent the Protectobots in Generations form. Now the Transformer into Defensor, there isn't much to go with, but it's still pretty cool to finally see them transform into their final Gestalt form. Anyways, first we're going to take Streetwise to transform it into one of the legs, since in G1 he actually turned into one of the legs. In the instruction booklet, it's supposed to go like this, as if you're transforming it dead end, since it is the same mold, into a leg, but technically in terms of how the Protectobots were in the show, they kind of made it so that this piece actually sticks up, but just for design purposes here, I'm going to be keeping it down. Pressing this, we'll now be able to attach the leg to the component here. So we now formed one of the legs. To finish it off, which now I'll show, we will need to pull out this piece, obviously, so that we can form the leg component fully. Next, we're going to go on to First Aid. Now, I'm going to go in a slightly different order here just to make it easier to combine it. We're actually going to go with First Aid, which is represented as one of the arms. To transform this, what you got to do is pretty much transform it mostly into robot mode, but stop just a little bit before you transform it fully. So now we're just going to form the legs as usual. And from there, once we get everything attached, like so, we'll now pull out the piece here, and then pull out the component there, and then pull the arms around so that they are out of the way. Just be careful, since the ball joints do tend to pop up over time. So, there isn't any specific way to do this, just like with the off-road mold, but just to make it easier, to just take it out of the way so you don't have to really have any issues there. And then make sure that the back end of the vehicle faces this direction so that the joints can go in the proper direction. And we'll just plug in the component here to fully form, or correctly, his left arm. Now, once we get that aligned, we'll now have one of the other components here. So there we go. Then we're going to go on to the other leg. Since Rook actually transforms into the alternate leg, which unfortunately, for those who are a big fan of the G1 character, does replace the leg completely instead of Groove. So you pretty much need to transform it mostly into vehicle mode as usual. Make sure that you pull up the head so that this piece can sit in properly, and place it down so it looks like that. Next, make sure that this is actually laying flat. Otherwise, this will be a lot taller than the other legs, so that's not going to work very well. Mostly that's for the arm mode. So we're just going to this out and plug this in. And then make sure that this piece in the front is here instead of on the back. So there we go. Now take out the component here, and now we got the other leg. Next, we're going to take blades and transform it into the right arm. Technically, it'll be easier to just keep it like this, but just for storage sake, we're actually going to keep the arm like this. We're now going to remove these pieces here for the arms so that we can get this part free. This. And just like with the other Protectobots, you need to slightly transform it once again into robot mode, but once again stop just before you fully form it. So here we go. We're going to open up the legs, get these out of the way. And then we're going to unpeg this, and we're going to place this back together as if we're going to go into robot mode, but we're obviously not going to form the head and so on. So we're just going to attach this. Then we're going to plug this together. To finish it off, we're going to make sure that this piece stays back down, like this. Technically, you can move these out of the way, but it's not really too necessary, so we could just plug these back on since this doesn't get in the way too much compared to the other forms. Make sure that the legs are facing this direction. I'm going to open up this piece here, and then push this upward, and close it off. And there we have the other arm formed after we plug in the fist. So now we have the other arm. To finish out the transformation, obviously we will need to transform Hotspot. Now this is where it gets kind of strange in the way how it forms. Because, once again, we're going to be semi-transforming it back into robot mode. But we need to do quite a lot of extra steps in order to fully form it into Defensor. We're going to keep this flat as usual. Open this up. And this time we're actually going to turn these leg pieces sideways and then place it back upward into the body. Like so. Sometimes it can be a little tricky because of how the joints are. So there we go. It looks like that. Next, we're going to open up the arms. And similar to what we did with Motormaster, we're actually going to turn these so that the shoulders face forward. And we're going to turn this around. Then, turn it like this. And we're going to peg the arms into the components like this, since it's actually going to peg into a little area there. So this can be a bit tricky, but once you get everything aligned, it should look like this. We're going to do the same for the other side. Okay, so here we go. Plug this in. You need to play around with the arms since sometimes the joints actually go against you when you transform it, but once you get that done, it should stay in the place. It stays in the place a lot better than it did with Motormaster. So here we go. Then, this is where it gets pretty interesting. We're going to make sure that this piece lays flat like this, and these are going to plug into these little components here, and they'll peg into there. So now, before we do that though, we're actually going to take the ladder, lay this flat, and then, to get these out of the way for a minute, we're actually going to take the ladder and turn it all the way around here. And it's going to pretty much cover the entire area there. Then this top piece is actually going to peg into those little grooves inside the top of Hotspot. So here we go. Sometimes it can be a bit tricky as well, but once you get that aligned, then it should snap into place like so. Now we're going to put these legs back into position. And thanks to the ladder piece, that also can be a bit difficult to stay in place. Then we're going to plug these components into the areas here, like so. Both sides. Okay, come on. There. And then we're going to pull these pieces here, turn the head, and then form the head fully. And there you have Hotspot in his Combiner mode. And here we have Defensor in his full combined glory. Now I have to admit, the original design of the G1 Defensor never really kicked with me because I always thought the design was really bland. It's understandable for what it was, since it was made from several different vehicles used for protection of, and just the usual kind of things like protecting from fires and other various things, but that design really didn't work. With the redesign here, I definitely think that they've done a really nice job to recreate it in a more lively way, personally, since I think the design is a lot more awesome than the original G1 toy. Now, groove can attach onto the leg in some cases, but that's just through a fan-made combination, since he doesn't exactly have a way to peg into anything there. He just holds on by friction, but it does give the illusion that groove is once again a part of the arm. I haven't found a good way to kind of initiate that, so I'm not going to show that in the video since I've yet to figure out a way to actually make that work for me. Now, what Groove is marketed as is actually a chest component armor. Now, I've actually transformed him off screen since mine Groove is actually getting quite loose ever since I got it, which is a bit of a shame. But you pretty much transferred it into this kind of weird armor up mode, and it utilizes the little Groove pieces that was not used for Groove's transformation him specifically, but it's just there for usage of the combination. Now, these little pegs on the side of his arms peg into these little holes that are on the side here in the chest. But once you get that done, you should have him fully formed. Now, because of the looseness of my Groove, it can be a bit difficult to keep it in place without pieces of the legs keep flying off like it did slightly there. And it doesn't really sit on very well, similar to what happened with Blackjack. But it works okay, and I'm going to leave it in like that. But it is still pretty cool, I have to admit. Here's a look at Defensor's head, which is a very nice design of Defensor. And now that we have the head here, we're going to actually show the articulation points. His head is on a swivel joint, but it can look up and down, and that's pretty much it for articulation there. His arms are on ratchets, which allow full movement inward and outward and can turn. And yes, same thing with Blackjack. It has once again fallen on. I really hate that about the chest armors this time around. So I'm just going to pick him up when the time comes. But anyways, his legs don't have any waist articulation, but are also on a double ratchet joint due to the transformation. Can kind of work, but at the same time not, because it can get loose, as you can see there. And his legs can bend at the knee there due to the articulation points. His arms can also, on both sides, turn 360 thanks to the arm joints of both combiner limbs. And his hands are obviously articulated since it's mostly made out of the same combining design. But overall, that's pretty much it for articulation. Now, besides the looseness of the design, I still think the toy is pretty cool. I'm just going to pick up Groove here since he popped off here. I'm just going to put it around here. But anyways, you can plug in the various weapons that came with the Protectobots, but the ones that work the most is obviously Hotspot's guns, which you could just attach here. So yeah, we're just going to quickly plug those in. And there you go, you have it fully armed up. Now, unfortunately, one thing I really do not like about the Combiner Wars releases in general right now is that there isn't a real good way to store the weapons. It works a little better for Superion just because he has a lot of ports you can plug in, and it looks a little bit more natural when you plug him in. But for the other combiners such as Defensor and also Menasor, there isn't a good way to really attach them without them just looking kind of awkward, especially since the weapons here are all different designs. However, I still think Hotspot and the team are very nice. You can watch the rest of my videos since I've already posted all the individual robots on my channel in the previous videos. But anyways, I still think this is a really nice set, and I highly recommend picking this up if you're a fan of Transformers, Combiner Wars in general, IDW, or even the original G1 cartoon. Anyways, please kindly subscribe, and don't forget to check the channels down below. Also, don't forget to check out the WW podcast on their new home on YouTube. I posted the link at the bottom there. And also, please check me out on Twitter under DarkOn633. And don't forget to check out Hero Taku for the latest in Hero news. And I'll see you too. Bye.